Assalamualaikum. My name is Siti Zubaidah binti Ahmad Razin from Bachelor of Muamalat. I will be giving explanation on hukum discussion and implementation of hibah in takaful product for the subject pengurusan hibah, wasiat dan faraid. The concept of hibah. Hibah is an Arabic word derived from the verb wahaba, which means giving without return. Hibah is defined as the voluntary grant of property rights to another person with good intentions. The condition of hibah is to give hibah while the giver is still alive. Hibah is, in Islamic terms, is a contract of giving property by a person voluntarily to another person during his lifetime without return using ijab and kabul. Hibah is the concept of giving from a property owner to a loved one without expecting a return and coercion from outsiders. Takaful participants who choose the hibah concept can donate the benefits or compensation received to the person they want. Thus, the basic goal of takaful for a person to provide emergency funds to the family can be achieved. Takaful is one of the mediums for long-term financial planning aimed at protecting the finances of a person affected by a disaster. All Islamic financial activities in Malaysia are supervised centrally by the Sharia Advisory Council of Bank Negara Malaysia. All decisions issued by the Sharia Advisory Council of Bank Negara Malaysia will be binding on Islamic financial institution. Next, still in the introduction, the hukum of hibah. In terms of hukum, this practice is based on the Quran, Sunnah and Ijma'. In terms of hukum, hibah is a practice that is sunat and encouraged in Islam. Among the verses of the Quran that encourage the practice of hibah is in the Surah Al-Baqarah ayat 177. Auzubillahi minasyaitonirrajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Laisal birra an tuwallu wujuhakum qibalal masyriqi wal maghribi walakinnal birra man amana billahi wal yawmil akhiri wal malaikati wal kitabi wan nabiyyin wa atal mala ala hubbihi dhawil qurba wal yatama wal masakin wa banas sabil was-sa'ilina wa fir riqab وأقام الصلاة وآتى الزكاة والموفون بعهدهم إذا عاهدوا والصابرين في البأساء والضراء وحين البأس أولئك الذين صدقوا وأولئك هم المتقون. The meanings are: righteousness does not consist in turning your faces toward the east or toward the west. True righteousness consists in believing in Allah and the last day, the angels, the kitab and the prophets, and giving away one's property to the relatives, the orphans, the poor, musafir, to those who ask for help in freeing the slave during the prayer, and pay zakat. True righteousness is attained by those who are faithful to their promise once they have made, and those who are patient in poverty, suffering, and in times of war. Those who are the truthful and they are the pious. Next is rukun hibah. A hibah contract will not be formed unless after fulfilling the following rukun and conditions. First, the giver of hibah, al-wahib. The giver of hibah must be a person that have perfect intellect and has reached puberty. The giver of hibah must be the owner of the goods given. Since the property owner has full power over his property, hibah can be made without rate limit as well as to whomever he likes, as long as it does not violate the hukum syarak. Next, the recipient of hibah, al-mawhub lahu. The recipient of hibah can consist of anyone if he has the ability to own property, whether mukallaf or non-mukallaf. If the recipient of hibah is not mukallaf, such as has not yet reached puberty or is disabled, hibah can be given to his guardian or trustee on his behalf. the recipient of hibah must receive the property granted and have the authority to hold the property granted. Control of the property must be given to the recipient of the hibah. Next, the goods or property of hibah al-mawhub. It must be halal property or goods. Goods or property must have value on the side of syarak. The goods or property belongs to the giver of hibah. It can be handed over ownership. It really exists while giving hibah. For example, hibah are not valid on things that do not yet exist, such as hibah from cows that are still in the womb, or hibah on the next year's rice crop where it has not yet grown. According to the mazhab Maliki, Shafi'i and Hanbali, hibah on the shared property that cannot be divided is sahin hukum. Things that are still secured, such as houses, is valid as hibah if permission from the pawnbroker or borrower is given. Sirah, ijab and kabul. Sirah in hibah is a deed that carries the meaning of giving and receiving hibah. There must be a connection and similarity between ijab and kabul, not subject to certain conditions. Example of the word ijab is the giver's word, such as I give this item to you, or kinayah, such as the giver saying I have handed over the title to you, or I made this item for you. Example of the word kabul or acceptance is like I accept. Next, we move on to the body. Hibah is one of the syariah concept used in takaful product and is practiced by takaful companies in mostly family takaful plans such as additional takaful plans product. In the education takaful plan, takaful participant will give hibah in the forms of takaful benefits to their children to finance their education costs in the future. Next, if the takaful participants wafat, the whole takaful benefit will become the named property, and this property will not be distributed to other heirs based on faraid. However, if the takaful participant is still alive when the takaful certificate matures, the benefit will be passed on to the takaful participants. The use of hibah in the provision of takaful benefits. First, takaful benefits can be given hibah because the purpose of takaful is to provide protection to takaful participants. Since the benefit of takaful are the rights of the takaful participants, then the participant has the freedom to exercise that right according to his choice if it does not conflict with syarak. The status of the hibah used in the takaful plan will not change to wasiat because the hibah is a conditional hibah. Takaful benefit are usually linked to the death of the participants and the maturity of the certificate. If the participant is still alive when the takaful certificate matures, the takaful benefit will be owned by the participants. However, if the participants die before the maturity period, then the hibah will take effect. Next, participants have the right to cancel hibah made before the expiry of the maturity period of the takaful certificate, as conditional hibah are only perfect after the occurrence of surrender, qabd. Next, participants have the right to cancel a hibah made to an individual and assign the benefit they wish to grant to another person, or to cancel participation in takaful if the recipient die before the maturity periods expire. The takaful nomination form must be clearly state the status of the nominee as a beneficiary if the intention of the participant is hibah. Hibah on takaful benefit are permissible as long as it is a right owned by the takaful participants. Such hibah are conditional hibah. The nominee will have such benefit when the participant die. On the other hand, if the participant is still alive at the end of the maturity period, the takaful certificate will belong to the participant and not the nominee. Next, hibah performed in takaful. Through this method, the takaful benefit to the named person are absolute and irreversible. This method is applied in all family takaful product at Etika Takaful Sendirian Berhad. In takaful product at Etika Takaful, this hibah application is known as absolute grant. hibah. This hibah is done with the takaful participants, usually a close family member such as the father to his son or husband to his wife, will fill out a form stating the concern of the contributor. When a person contributes in family takaful products, he will be given the choice of either filling in the hibah grant form or the nominee form. Participant will be given a clear description of the process. Usually, the contributor who chooses to give hibah already has his own protection scheme, and the giving of hibah given to his child is indeed intended to give the benefit to his child. If the contributor fills out the nominee form, he or she can withdraw or change the nominee as he or she wishes. The application of the hibah principle in the etika is flexible for the contributor in the context of giving him the freedom to give his contribution money and takaful benefit to whomever he wants. Hibah is practiced in takaful etika company is intended to simplify the management system compared to conditional hibah, which is quite complicated in the term of its management and also disputed its position in terms of Islamic hukum. Next, hibah, which applies as the structure of the takaful product itself. The takaful participant named in the takaful product is the beneficiary who received the hibah. This happens when a parent becomes a contributor to his child in education takaful product. The modus operandi of this type of hibah is easy to understand because the payer of the father, for example, becomes a donor by paying a certain amount each month until maturity as a contribution for the benefit of his child who is a participant. When the contribution reach maturity, then the contribution money savings together with the profit, if any, will be handed over to the child. Similarly, all the benefit of his participation in this takaful product also become his property. This application occurs in ethical companies takaful product that are educational saving such as master product and ikhlas product, education takaful. In addition, hibah in this product is also seen as the act of providing certain rewards to participants by the takaful companies. Rewards such as academic excellence prizes are taken from the tabarruk fund, participant special fund of the takaful company. Next, the purpose of application of hibah principle in takaful. The principle of hibah applied in distributing takaful benefit after the death of a participant is to provide protection to the family, such as children, wife, and parents. Giving hibah to the family, the payment of takaful benefit is not subject to faraid distribution. This will guarantee the immediate family in terms of the welfare of their life after the death of the participant. The purpose of an individual contributing in a takaful scheme, especially family takaful, is to provide protection and look after the welfare of family members who are under his care. The application of the hibah principle facilitates the operation of payment of takaful benefits. When a takaful participant nominates a person or several persons as the recipient of the hibah, the takaful operating company will continue to issue a check for the payment of takaful benefits to the named individual. The recipient beneficiary is entitled to the benefit payment money as his property, and he is not required to distribute it to other heirs according to faraid rules. In the conclusion, it can be concluded that the principle of hibah, although not considered as the main principle in the operation of the Islamic financial system, but it is applied as a supporting principle in Islamic muamalat activities in Islamic financial institutions in Malaysia. The community's demand for the Islamic financial system is increasing, especially in the takaful industry. To facilitate the distribution of takaful money, Hibah is applied as a supporting principles in Islamic muamalat activities that take place. Lastly, hibah is used in the field of takaful. According to jumhur ulama's perspective, the pillars of hibah consist of the giver, the recipient of the hibah, goods for hibah, and sirah. That's all from me. Thank you so much for hearing. Assalamualaikum.